On this Monday night, a Montreal father accused of a heinous crime. Why he's charged in the murder of his 9-year-old daughter.
Do you have anything to say about these charges?
What he told police and what's known about the girl's final days. A federal cabinet minister's defense. Why he says he supported the immigration application of a man who Canada deemed a member of a terrorist organization. Potential danger. Why hundreds of thousands of swimming pools in Canada are being recalled. Plus, prestigious honor.
Couldn't believe that I was selected.
The Indigenous woman from Saskatchewan bestowed with a 2025 Nelson Mandela Award.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Carolyn Jarvis.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. A Montreal businessman is facing charges of second-degree murder and concealment of a body after his 9-year-old daughter was found dead in the U.S. The father is accused of killing her while on vacation in New York. He initially told police she was abducted, but investigators say that was a lie. Touria Izri reports on what we know so far.
Mr. Fertolin, do you have anything to say?
Luciano Fertolin led away in handcuffs, accused of murdering his 9-year-old daughter Melina and trying to hide her body.
Members of the New York State Police Forest Rangers located Melina deceased in the shallow portion of a pond.
The investigation began as a possible kidnapping. An Amber Alert went out for a missing child around Lake George in the Adirondacks.
He then reports 2 unknown males forced her into a white van. That lead was thoroughly investigated and disproven.
Fertolin had taken his daughter over the border on vacation. On July 11th, police say they entered the U.S. legally, visiting Connecticut and New York. On July 19th, at 5:30 p.m., Melina is seen with her father on video surveillance. An hour later, she phones her mother and sounds fine. At 10 p.m., her father calls police and reports her disappearance around Lake George. Sometime in that 3.5-hour span, investigators believe she was murdered. At 10:50, Sunday, July 20th, New York State Forest Rangers find her body, the same day she was supposed to return home to her mother in Montreal. Investigators say her parents had been estranged since 2019 and that she lived with her mother full-time. Their separation ended badly, this friend of Fertolin told TVA. According to police, the 45-year-old has no criminal record or history of domestic abuse. He owns a Montreal business known as Gambella Coffee and describes himself as someone who spends as much time as he can in Montreal, Canada, with his beautiful daughter Melina as the light of his life.
The Canadian authorities will help out in getting judicial authorizations, production orders, search warrants, items like that.
Court documents point to financial trouble, with Scotiabank suing him for $83,000.
Mr. Fertolin, any comments?
He's now being held behind bars in Essex County, New York. Fertolin will be prosecuted for Melina's death in the U.S. New York State Police have yet to release the cause of death, but say it will come after an autopsy being performed today. Carolyn?
Touria Izri in Montreal, thank you. And another summer tragedy. A 13-year-old Hamilton girl is dead after drowning at a popular camping and swimming spot in southwestern Ontario. It happened Sunday evening at the Wildwood Conservation Area. The girl was reportedly there with her family but disappeared in the water. Police were called shortly before 7 p.m. and searched the reservoir. The teen's body was found about an hour later within a designated swimming area. Public Safety Minister Gary Anandasangaree says he was only doing his job and downplayed his involvement in a national security case about letters he wrote supporting a member of a terrorist group. A Global News investigation uncovered that Anandasangaree had asked Canadian officials to back the immigration bid of a man who was already deemed by Canada to be a member of the Tamil Tigers. Jeff Semple joins us now with more. Jeff.
Carolyn, we spoke with Gary Anandasangaree for the first time since our investigation revealed that Canada's Public Safety Minister had previously written letters of support for a suspected member of a terrorist organization to immigrate here to Canada. Before he became Public Safety Minister, Anandasangaree wrote these 2 letters for a Sri Lankan citizen, Senthuran Selvakumaran. Selvakumaran is married to a Canadian, and he previously admitted to Canadian and British officials that he was a former member of the Tamil Tigers. In 2006, the Canadian government designated that militant group a terrorist organization. Now, after his application was denied, Selvakumaran changed his story and claimed he hadn't worked for the group and that he'd lied after receiving bad legal advice. But immigration officials didn't buy it. They rejected his claims 4 times. Anandasangaree told me that writing those letters was part of his responsibilities as an elected MP.
This is part and parcel of the work that every member of parliament does. And in this particular case, I was executing my duties as a member of parliament, one that I believe constituents expect me to do.
He was rejected on national security grounds, though, which is quite extraordinary. We couldn't find any other case like that. And now you're minister in charge of national security, border security. Do you defend that decision now? Do you regret writing those letters?
Just to be very clear, the Ministry of Relief Regiment does contemplate advocacy by a range of individuals, including members of parliament. In the context of minister, that would be inappropriate, and I have instructed my office not to issue support letters of that nature, because ultimately the decision will be coming to me as an individual.
Anandasangaree's most recent letter of support in 2023 was sent just 1 day before he joined cabinet. Asked about this case last week, the Prime Minister said his public safety minister has been transparent and has his full confidence. Carolyn?
Jeff Semple in Toronto, thank you. For the first time, Federal Health Minister Marjorie Michel responded to questions in person about the government's troubled vaccine injury support program. The government created the program in 2021 to provide financial support to anyone who is seriously and permanently injured by a vaccine, and hired a private company called Oxaro to run it. But a Global News investigation revealed of the $54 million in taxpayer dollars paid to Oxaro, only a third, $18 million, reached the injured. And more than 1,700 people are still waiting for their claims to be decided, some for years. Today, the minister said that was unacceptable.
No, people shouldn't wait if they really need services or to get compensation. But as I will tell you, it's more complex than this.
When asked whether the government will renew its contract with Oxaro once it expires next year, the minister said, for now, a third party is running it, but every option is on the table. Oxaro, meanwhile, says it has received 10 times as many claims as anticipated and is working with the Public Health Agency of Canada to handle the workload while respecting its budget. Canada's premiers are gathering in Huntsville, Ontario today ahead of a meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney. Once again, the economy and U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs are at the top of the agenda, with more levies against Canadian goods expected in the coming weeks. As Mackenzie Gray reports, there are still differing views on how best to tackle the problem.
Oh, here's got Stan. He's living the lake life already, right? Yeah.
In Ontario cottage country,
he's the best looking out of all.
A friendly welcome from the Premier before talks turn to addressing a common threat, Donald Trump.
Start buying Canadian-made vehicles. Start buying Canadian-made everything. That will hurt them more than anything at all. We're their #1 customer.
But Trump's administration isn't treating Canada like a top customer, promising a 35% tariff on all non-free trade goods starting August 1st.
The reality that we won't get to zero on each and every topic. The goal is to get as close to zero on as many items that we possibly can.
Whatever the deal, the Premier of Quebec wants long-term stability for struggling Canadian businesses.
We need to have, if there's an agreement on August 1st, duration. Will it be for 3 years, for 5 years?
Trump has reneged on multiple previous agreements, but Alberta's Premier believes for Canada, recent concessions like dumping the digital services tax will help.
So I think by making those kinds of concessions, it demonstrates goodwill, and I think all of us are hopeful that we'll get to an agreement.
To lessen dependence on the U.S., both Carney and the Premiers have promised to build major infrastructure projects. But some Indigenous leaders at Monday's meeting were frustrated with the talks.
Like they're pretty much set in their ways, and somehow we're supposed to believe them that things will be okay. And we're saying, no, we don't believe you.
Others optimistic about charting a positive path forward.
Consider this progress. I'm glad that the premiers had agreed that we do have to have tough discussions with each other.
Discussions that will continue with Mark Carney when he arrives in Muskoka late Monday.
We're having dinner tonight. At your place? Yes, at our place. Your cottage? Yes. I don't know, but I eat anything. You can tell. Look at the size of this guy.
Indigenous leaders were frustrated they weren't invited to that dinner or Tuesday's meeting with the Prime Minister, Carolyn, leading them and the premiers to call on Carney to have an additional meeting with them later this year.
Mackenzie Gray in Huntsville, Ontario. Thank you. In Newfoundland and Labrador, firefighters are fending off a wildfire that's reached dangerously close to the town of Musgrave Harbour. Officials say the fire has grown to 1,800 hectares since it was detected Saturday night. It's burning just 2 kilometers from the community, which has been evacuated. Fire crews are optimistic, though, that rainfall and changing winds in the forecast will help suppress the flames. 4 water bombers are also attacking the blaze from the air. The wildfire situation also remains tough across Manitoba. In an update today, officials said nearly all fires increased in activity after a hot and dry weekend. Despite more rain in the forecast, less than 1 millimeter has fallen on the worst-hit areas in recent days. Wildfire smoke is also reducing visibility for crews in the air. Air quality warnings are still in effect throughout much of the province and parts of neighbouring Saskatchewan and Ontario. More than 5 million above-ground pools sold in Canada and the U.S. are being recalled after several children drowned. The pools sold by Bestway, Intex, Recreation and Poly Group feature compression straps running along the exterior. Health Canada and the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission say children have used the straps as makeshift steps to enter pools unattended. More than 260,000 have been sold in Canada. The pools are linked to the deaths of 9 children in the U.S. between 2007 and 2022. You can find more details of the recall on Health Canada's website. Canada joins renewed calls to end the war in Gaza. Coming up, the plea from 25 countries to stop the suffering as Israel pushes on with its offensive. In Bangladesh, at least 19 people are dead and some 160 others injured, mostly students, after an Air Force training jet crashed into a college campus in the country's capital. The jet suffered a technical malfunction shortly after takeoff, according to the Bangladesh military. The pilot, who was among the dead, attempted to divert the aircraft away from densely populated areas. But despite his best efforts, the plane slammed into a 2-story building, which is part of the Milestone School and College in Dhaka. Canada and 24 other countries, excluding the U.S., issued a joint statement today demanding Israel end the war in Gaza. Part of the statement says the suffering of civilians in Gaza has reached new depths. The letter also criticizes the Israeli and U.S.-backed aid operation in Gaza, Israel's plan to create a so-called humanitarian city, and Israeli settlements in the West Bank. As Redmond Shannon reports, the joint statement came as Israel began a new ground offensive.
The start of a new phase of Israel's war in Gaza, the first ground assault on the central city of Deir al-Balah. On Sunday, thousands evacuated the area where many aid groups are based and where it's believed Israeli hostages are being held.
Until now, the operations that were geared towards the rescue of hostages were done in a very quiet manner. Now it's like this big announcement about the operation beginning, evacuation notices, tanks rolling in, so it doesn't seem like something of this sort.
The assault is also a day after dozens of people were killed trying to get aid, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Israel's military says it fired warning shots to disperse a threat. On Monday, a group of 25 Western governments issued a joint demand to end the war, including Canada.
An immediate ceasefire, of course, the release of all the hostages, but also the resumption at scale of humanitarian aid.
It said, "We condemn the drip feeding of aid and the inhumane killing of civilians, including children," adding that Israel must comply with its obligations under international humanitarian law.
The situation on the ground in Gaza is intolerable. On so many levels.
The countries also condemned Israeli plans to move the entire population of Gaza to a so-called humanitarian city planned for the ruins of Rafah in the south of the Strip. They also condemned Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank.
And until now, we see very little concrete activism by such countries following up on such statements.
Israel says the joint statement is, quote, disconnected from reality and that it fails to focus on Hamas's role in the war. Two notable absentees from the statement are Israel's two biggest military suppliers and diplomatic allies, the United States and Germany. Carolyn?
Redmond Shannon in London, thank you. In Syria, a fragile ceasefire appears to be holding after days of sectarian violence that left hundreds dead and displaced hundreds more. Bedouin militia were seen leaving the city of Suwaida in cars and on the backs of trucks after a week of kidnappings and clashes with fighters from the Druze minority. Syria's fledgling government deployed its forces at entry points around the predominantly Druze city Sunday, restoring calm. Mourning a popular 80s sitcom star. Ahead, what police are saying about the death of Malcolm-Jamal Warner.
Just think, Dad, I was that close to one of the most embarrassing days of my life.
That's actor Malcolm-Jamal Warner, best known for his role as Theo Huxtable on the popular sitcom The Cosby Show. Warner died while on a trip to Costa Rica. Investigators say he accidentally drowned when a current pulled him deeper into the ocean Sunday afternoon. Warner performed in many hit TV comedies and dramas, including Malcolm and Eddie, Suits, and Sons of Anarchy. He was 54 years old. U.S. President Donald Trump is now marking 6 months into his second term in office. And with everything from tariff threats to mass deportations, it's definitely been a busy time of enacting aggressive and divisive policies. As Jackson Prosco reports, there are signs the American people are already growing weary of it.
So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
There were early signals this second Trump term would be different. Day one brought a flurry of executive orders and pardons. Then came mass firings of federal workers. Deportations and threats to annex Canada soon followed.
So I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state.
6 months in, Trump claims it's all being hailed as one of the most consequential periods of any president. He's not wrong.
I don't think anybody can deny that Trump hasn't worked hard and gotten a lot done. Now, what he's done, of course, pleases conservatives for the most part and has horrified moderates and liberals.
But the honeymoon may already be over. Trump's overall approval rating has slipped to 42%, down 10 points since February. On immigration, his top issue, more now oppose what Trump is doing than support it.
When you look at his specific performance on immigration, he's sort of in negative waters. He's in the 30s, which isn't great. It's a problematic place to be.
The next 6 months may prove to be the bigger test, with his base fractured by Trump's handling of the investigation into sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, while the impact of Trump's tariffs is only now starting to take hold on the U.S. economy.
Really, it'll be the second half of this year that will tell all and show to what extent will the tariff policy come back and affect him negatively or positively.
Far from deterred, Trump keeps unleashing a torrent of daily pronouncements. His latest, demanding sports teams in Washington and Cleveland revert to names and logos that were long ago deemed racist.
I think you've seen the president gets involved in a lot of things that most presidents have not. He's a non-traditional president.
There's rarely a day where Trump isn't making headlines. Americans have learned their president likely wouldn't have it any other way. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
An International Human Rights Honor awarded to a Saskatchewan woman. Next, her critical work in helping Indigenous communities. A Saskatchewan woman has received a rare honor for her dedication in advancing Indigenous rights, mental health, and trauma-informed care. The Nelson Mandela Prize is only awarded every 5 years on the birthday of the former South African leader. It's given to those who have dedicated their lives to the service of humanity, reconciliation, and community development. As Melissa Ridgen reports, this is the first time it's been awarded to a Canadian.
I call to order the informal meeting of the plenary to observe the Nelson Mandela International Day.
The UN headquarters in New York is a long way from Fishing Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan. The journey of a lifetime for Brenda Reynolds, one of just 2 people in the world honored with the 2025 Nelson Mandela Award.
Even though I speak 2 languages, I still cannot find the words to express the depth of my gratitude and the humility I have to accept the United Nations Nelson Mandela Prize.
Reynolds supported 17 teenage girls who came forward with Saskatchewan's first residential school sex abuse case in 1988, and more recently served as special advisor to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
She's a social worker who turned the struggle against the most hideous of crimes against children into a national force for change, supporting and developing trauma responses for survivors and families of the residential school system.
This Soto matriarch has long felt a kinship with the South African anti-apartheid activist and politician.
There are many parallels to what we had experienced in both our countries, where the governments impacted policies to change who we are, to face oppression, to face a violation of human rights in our countries.
More than 300 people were nominated for the honor, awarded to 1 man and 1 woman every 5 years.
I want to keep on doing my consulting work. I love doing the education, talking about what are the traumatic events that are caused by cultural genocide. What does it look like? And what does that look like today?
Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
And that is Global National for this Monday night. I'm Carolyn Jarvis. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Kentville, Nova Scotia, Mississauga, Ontario, and a patriotic moose lawn ornament in Hope, British Columbia. Please keep sending your pictures of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great night.